Why does a $3 bottle of vanilla extract outperform most commercial deer attractants on the shelf? Because the active compound in vanilla extract, a molecule called vanillin, hits the exact gap in a whitetail's scent processing system that the big scent companies have been trying to fake with synthetic chemistry for 40 years. They never got it right. Vanilla extract has been doing it for free in every grocery store in America the entire time. I'm going to walk you through the biology of why it works, exactly how to deploy it, and the dollar-for-dollar comparison that's going to make you flat out angry about every commercial bottle you've ever bought. None of this is theory. All of it has been tested on real properties across multiple states and multiple seasons by hunters who track their data and compare results. Stay until the end, because I'm sharing one application method an outfitter buddy in Iowa showed me that takes vanilla from a decent attractant to something that turns slow afternoons into encounter sessions. I've been hunting for 27 years and testing scent products for the last 12 of those years, and the data on vanilla extract is the most consistent thing I've seen. It's not even close. I have notebook entries going back to 2019, tracking which sits used vanilla, which used commercial scent, and which used nothing. The vanilla sits outperformed commercial scent, sits in encounter rate by a meaningful margin every season I tracked it. The first thing you need to understand is what vanilla extract actually is and why it triggers the response it does. Vanilla extract is a solution of vanillin extracted from cured vanilla beans, suspended in alcohol and water. Vanillin is the primary aromatic compound, and it's classified chemically as a phenolic aldehyde. It's also one of the most widely used flavoring agents in livestock feed across the United States. Cornell University and Penn State Extension have both published research on vanillin as a feed additive used to mask bitterness in dairy cattle silage and to improve palatability in young calves. That matters because deer in agricultural regions, which is most of the whitetail range east of the Rockies, have been encountering trace vanillin in cattle feed, spilled silage, and grain leftovers for generations. They don't perceive it as foreign, they perceive it as food adjacent. It carries no predator signal, no alarm chemistry, no warning. The deer has no evolutionary memory of vanilla as a threat, because vanilla and its analogs only entered the agricultural ecosystem in measurable concentrations within the last 100 years. From a deer's biological standpoint, vanillin is brand new and food-coded. The deer's olfactory system processes it the way it processes a crushed acorn or a fermenting apple. Curiosity, not caution, that distinction is the entire game. A deer in caution mode is a deer you will never get a shot at. A deer in curiosity mode is a deer that walks straight into your shooting lane while convinced he is in control of the situation. The second piece of the puzzle is how the deer brain handles novel scents that don't trigger alarm. A whitetail has roughly 297 million olfactory receptors, about 60 times what you have, and their brain dedicates a significant portion of processing power to categorizing scents into 3 buckets: food, threat, and breeding. Vanillin doesn't fit threat. It doesn't fit breeding. It defaults to food investigation. The deer approaches the source nose down, working the scent like it would a fresh acorn drop. I have watched this happen on trail camera footage from a property I hunted in Decatur County, Iowa. CRP grass interspersed with mature timber on rolling glacial hills, the kind of property where you can hear a deer step on a stick from 100 yards away. A 3.5-year-old buck cruising through a CRP field in mid-October stopped, lifted his head, and walked 40 yards out of his original direction to investigate a vanilla wick I'd hung the night before. His approach pattern was nose down, ears relaxed, no flagging. That's a deer in food mode, not threat mode. Same camera, same stand, same buck 2 days earlier, walking past untreated. The only variable that changed was the cotton ball with 12 drops of vanilla extract on it. Let me be clear about something. I am not telling you that one buck on one camera is proof. I am telling you it lined up with what I had seen on 3 other properties over the previous 5 seasons. The pattern repeats across enough properties and enough sits that I stopped counting it as anecdotal years ago. The third piece is the application method, and this is where most hunters get it wrong on the first try. You do not pour vanilla extract on the ground. You do not spray it on tree bark. You do not soak a rag in it. The correct application is 10 to 15 drops, roughly the volume of a third of a teaspoon, on a cotton ball or a commercial scent wick. Hang the wick at 4 to 5 feet off the ground, about chest height on a whitetail, on a branch 20 to 25 yards from your stand, roughly the distance from your front door to the curb of your house. Position it so the wind carries the scent into a natural travel corridor, not into a thick bedding area where the deer would be approaching uphill. The smaller dose is intentional. Vanillin is a strong compound and concentration matters more than volume. Too much vanilla creates an unnatural intensity that triggers suspicion instead of curiosity. I learned this the hard way 3 seasons ago. I doused a cotton ball with about a teaspoon of pure McCormick vanilla extract on a sit in western Maryland, hung it 15 yards out, and watched a doe approach within 30 yards, lock up, snort, and exit. The intensity was wrong. I dropped the dose to 12 drops the next morning, and a different doe walked under it without hesitation. Less is more. I keep a small dropper bottle in my pack now, instead of bringing the whole grocery store bottle. Easier to count drops in cold fingers when you can see exactly what you are applying. The 2-ounce dropper bottles from any drugstore work perfect. Refill from the main bottle every couple weeks during season. Cheap, simple, and the dropper makes the dose count exact every single time. Everything in this video, the science, the application method, the cost math, plus 74 more field-tested techniques, is in the Buck Hunter's Bible. 90 pages of deer behavior, science, scent control, scouting, stand placement, and rut phase tactics, with a quick reference card you can take to the stand. Link in the description below. QR code on screen. The 4th piece is the brand, and this matters more than you'd think. Pure vanilla extract, the kind made from real vanilla beans, contains the actual vanillin compound, plus secondary aromatic molecules from the beans themselves. Imitation vanilla, which is most of what you find on grocery store shelves, is synthetic vanillin in a propylene glycol or alcohol base. Both work, but pure extract works noticeably better in my testing. I've used McCormick Pure Vanilla Extract from a 4-ounce bottle that runs about $12 at most grocery stores, and Watkins Pure Vanilla Extract, which is a little cheaper at around $9 for the same size. Either one lasts an entire season at 12 to 15 drops per application and 1 application per sit. My wife asked me last October why we suddenly had 3 bottles of vanilla extract in the kitchen and only one of them was being used for baking. I told her it was a science experiment. She did not look convinced. She also did not throw the bottles out, which is the closest thing to permission I am ever going to get. She has stopped asking questions about the hunting kitchen at this point. That's roughly 30 to 40 sits per bottle, or a full hunting season for most weekend warriors. The math on this is going to make you wince. Here's the cost comparison, and I want you to think about it carefully. Wildlife Research Center sells special golden estrus, one of the most popular commercial doe estrus attractants in the country, for around $13 per 4-ounce bottle at Cabela's. Code Blue Standing Estrus runs about $14 for the same size. A serious hunter who uses commercial scent products through a full season might burn through 4 to 6 bottles of various attractants, cover sprays, and curiosity scents. Call it $70 to $100 per season on attractants alone. Multiply that by 20 years of hunting, and you are looking at $1,400 to $2,000 spent on bottles of liquid that, in many cases, contain synthetic versions of compounds found in your kitchen pantry. That is real money. That is the kind of money that buys a hunting trip out of state, or a custom rifle, or a year of college tuition for a grandkid. Now, run the same math on vanilla extract. 1 bottle of McCormick Pure at $12, lasting an entire season at 30 to 40 applications. 20 years of hunting at 1 bottle per year is $240 total. The difference isn't 10% or 20%. The difference is roughly $1,200 to $1,800 over the course of a hunting career. That's a new bow. That's a hunting trip out of state. That's a custom rifle. The big scent companies aren't lying to you when they sell you their bottles. They just never bothered to mention that vanillin is a USDA-approved livestock feed additive that the deer in your hunting area have been encountering naturally for years. Quick note before we go further. Some states have restrictions or specific rules around scent attractants, especially anything classified as bait. Vanilla extract isn't urine-based and doesn't carry CWD risk, but a few states classify food-based attractants as bait under specific conditions. Spend 5 minutes on your state wildlife agency website before opening day. It takes longer to find the parking lot at the public land than it does to verify the regulation. And a $300 ticket for using a $12 bottle of vanilla is the kind of mistake you only make once. The fifth piece is timing, and vanilla works best in specific windows. Early season, from about mid-September through the first week of October, is when food source curiosity is at its peak because deer are feeding hard to build fat reserves before the rut and winter. Vanilla shines in that window. The pre-rut, late October through the first few days of November in most of the country, is the second peak window because bucks are cruising and investigating any novel scent that might lead them to a doe or a food source. The actual peak rut, when bucks are locked down with does, is the worst time to use vanilla. The deer aren't interested in food at that point. They're interested in breeding. Switch to estrus-based strategies during peak rut and come back to vanilla in the post-rut when bucks need to refuel. I made the mistake of running vanilla through peak rut my first year using it and got nothing for 2 weeks. The product was not broken. The timing was wrong. I should have switched to estrus scent for those 2 weeks and gone back to vanilla on November 15th when the bucks transitioned to recovery feeding. That is the lesson. Match the strategy to the phase, not the other way around. Hunters who run the same scent strategy from October 1st through December 15th miss 2/3 of their opportunity windows. The deer change. Your strategy has to change with them. Vanilla is a tool in the box, not the whole toolkit. The sixth piece is what to combine vanilla with, and this is where it gets interesting. Vanilla as a standalone attractant works. Vanilla combined with the right partner doubles the response in my testing. The combination I've had the most consistent results with is vanilla on the wick paired with crushed corn or sliced apples scattered on the ground 15 yards downwind of the wick. The vanilla pulls the deer in from distance through scent. The visual of the corn or apples on the ground gives them a target to commit to once they're in close. Without the visual target, some deer scent check the vanilla and leave. With the visual target, they walk in and feed. The vanilla creates the curiosity. The food creates the commitment. Together, they convert a casual scent investigation into an actual feeding session inside your shooting lane. A deer that commits to feeding stays in the area for 15 to 20 minutes minimum. That window is more than enough time to range the shot, draw the bow, settle the pin, and release. Without the food on the ground, that window collapses to maybe 90 seconds of sniffing the wick before the deer drifts on. Same principle I covered in the deer behavior video about how mature bucks need a destination to commit to, not just a scent trail. Scent gets them moving. The visual seals the deal. The seventh piece is the limitation that nobody talks about. Vanilla does not work well in cold winter conditions below about 25 degrees Fahrenheit. The vanillin compound becomes less volatile at low temperatures, meaning fewer molecules disperse into the air column, meaning the scent doesn't reach as far. In late season hunts in northern states, the effective range drops from roughly 80 yards, about 3/4 the length of a football field, to maybe 20 or 30 yards. That changes the math on every stand setup. Switch to a heavier oil-based scent in those conditions, or focus on food source ambush instead of attractant strategy. I learned this hunting the Adirondacks of upstate New York one December. I had a perfect setup, perfect wind, vanilla on the wick, and watched 2 does walk 40 yards from the wick without ever turning toward it. The temperature was 18 degrees, and the scent was just sitting on the wick instead of carrying. The eighth piece is the counter-argument I know you're thinking. Yes, food-based scents can attract animals other than deer. Raccoons love vanilla. Black bears in northern states will definitely investigate it if they're still active. The mitigation is simple. Use the smaller dose, 10 to 12 drops, not 20, and pull the wick at the end of every sit instead of leaving it overnight. The dose is too small to attract a bear from any meaningful distance during legal shooting hours, and pulling the wick eliminates the overnight raccoon issue. In areas with active bear populations during hunting season, the Appalachians, the northern Great Lakes, the upper Northeast default to a slightly different strategy. Vanilla on the wick during the sit only, never overnight, and never combined with food on the ground. I want to take you back to that Decatur County, Iowa hunt for a second, because it's the one that convinced me vanilla wasn't a gimmick. I'd been running cell cameras on a 90-acre lease for 2 seasons. Same property, same stands, same access routes. My average daylight buck encounters per hunt was around 1 every 6 sits. I started using vanilla in early October, that 3rd year. 12 drops on a wildlife research scent. Wick hung 22 yards from my Matthews bow at chest height on a maple branch. Over 14 sits across October and early November. My daylight buck encounters jumped to roughly 1 every 2 sits. 3 of those bucks walked within 25 yards of the wick. One of them, a 3.5-year-old 8-point, came in nose down from a soybean field 80 yards away. Worked the wick for almost a full minute, and then bedded in a thicket 50 yards behind it for the next 4 hours. I have no idea why he bedded there. The biology says food mode deer should keep moving. He did not. He bedded down 50 yards from the wick, roughly the distance from your back door to your fence line, and stayed there until last light, when he stood up, walked back to the wick, worked it for another 30 seconds, and then drifted back into the soybean field he had come from. I never had a clean shot. I did not care. The data was the data. The vanilla pulled a 3.5-year-old buck off his original travel line, held him in my area for over 4 hours, and brought him back to the wick at the end of the sit. That is not luck. I'm not pretending one season on one property is a controlled study. But the encounter rate jump was consistent enough across enough sits that I have not hunted a season without vanilla on the wick since. It earned the spot in my pack the same way the wind checker and the rangefinder earned theirs. Tools that survive the encounter rate audit make the cut. Tools that do not get cut. Vanilla made the cut on encounter rate alone. The cost savings are a bonus. Look, I put the entire scent system, plus stand placement, scouting methods, deer behavior science, and 74 more field-tested techniques into the Buck Hunter's Bible. Reference card in the back. Link in the description. QR code on screen. The application method I promised at the beginning, the one my outfitter buddy in Iowa showed me. He doesn't just hang a single wick at 22 yards. He runs what he calls a vanilla triangle. 3 wicks, each with 10 drops, hung at the 3 corners of a triangle that surrounds his stand at distances of about 18, 22, and 28 yards. The triangle creates an overlapping scent column from 3 different directions, which means a deer approaching from any wind angle hits vanilla scent before it hits human scent. The deer's path through the triangle naturally pulls it past the stand at one of the corners, almost always within bow range. The geometry does the work for you. Instead of hoping the deer happens to walk past your single wick from the right angle, you have created a scent funnel that converges on your shooting lane from every direction the wind can come from. He showed me this on his lease in southern Iowa, about 240 acres of mixed timber and standing corn, and the trail camera footage was almost embarrassing. He had 11 different bucks, ranging from yearlings to a 4.5-year-old shooter, captured working at least one corner of the triangle within a 10-day window in mid-October. The setup costs roughly the same as a single wick application, takes maybe 2 extra minutes to deploy, turns a passive curiosity attractant into a stand positioning system that does the work for you, whether the wind cooperates or not. I've been running the triangle for 2 seasons now, and my encounter rate inside 30 yards has roughly doubled from the single wick approach. Once you start using this, you'll wonder why anyone bothers with $14 bottles of doe estrus, when a $12 bottle of vanilla extract from the baking aisle is doing the heavy lifting for an entire season. The guys who know this don't talk about it at deer camp. Not because it is a secret, because it sounds too simple to be true until you put a camera on it. The first time you tell another hunter that a $12 bottle of baking extract outperforms his $14 bottle of doe estrus, he is going to look at you the way I looked at the buddy who told me about it 5 years ago. Then he is going to try it. Then he is going to call you back and admit you were right. The scent companies built a billion-dollar business selling fancy bottles with deer pictures on the label, and the answer was sitting next to the chocolate chips in your pantry the entire time. $12 at any grocery store. No camo on the label, no marketing budget behind it, no pro staffer on Instagram telling you to buy it. Just a bottle of baking extract that does what the $14 doe estrus bottle promises and rarely delivers. The deer do not read labels. They never have. They process molecules, not marketing. Vanillin is a molecule they trust because their environment trained them to trust it. Use the smaller dose. Hang it at chest height. Position it for the wind. Try the triangle when you're ready. And the next time the guy in the next stand asks how you're seeing so many deer this season, you can tell him whatever you want. The math is on your side. The biology is on your side. The grocery store bottle is sitting in 1,000 kitchens within 10 miles of every deer woods in America. And almost nobody is using it the way it actually works. That is the gap you hunt in. That is where the encounters live. This Saturday morning, 12 drops, chest height, 20 yards out from your stand, then count what shows up. Run a notebook. Track wind, temperature, time of day, and exactly what you saw. 2 seasons of data will tell you what works on your specific ground better than any video can. By the second sit, you will know whether your encounter rate moved. By the 5th sit, you will know whether vanilla earns a permanent spot in your pack the way it earned one in mine. The data tells you everything. Just give it the chance to do the talking.